Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Today, I will be presenting the effect of heat on brake and transmission fluid viscosity. This topic is important because these fluids play a major role in vehicle safety and performance as well. That's inshallah what we'll be covering today. So why fluid viscosity matters in vehicles? Viscosity is essential because it affects how well brake and transmission fluid transfer force, flow through the system, and protect components. So when viscosity changes, the performance of these systems change as well. So now is the question, what is viscosity? Viscosity is a fluid's internal resistance to flow. Essentially, it means how thick or thin a fluid is. A higher viscosity fluid is thick like honey and flows slowly. A lower viscosity fluid is thin like water. So for vehicle systems, we need the viscosity to stay within a specific range to work properly. Now comes the question, how heat affects fluid viscosity. So when the temperature rises, fluid becomes thinner. This reduces their ability to lubricate, protect components, and maintain a pressure. If the heat gets too high, the fluid can start to break down chemically and lose its protective properties. So it's really important to control the heat and know the viscosity and the properties of your oil and fluids as well. Brake fluid transfer force from pedal to the brake calipers. It must keep a stable viscosity under very high pressure and temperatures. So those are really tough and higher requirements to maintain. Modern fluids like DOT3, DOT4, and DOT 5.1 are designed to meet strict standards for viscosity and boiling points. And now comes the question, how heat impact on brake fluids viscosity. So as braking generates heat, temperature rises, viscosity drops, as we know. The fluid then can start to boil, and this leads to brake fade. Moisture absorption over time makes this even worse by lowering the boiling point. At normal temperatures, the fluid is thicker and works optimally. As the temperature increases, it becomes thinner and eventually can reach boiling, forming vapor bubbles that seriously reduce braking power. So as we've said, higher temperatures lead to the oils becoming thinner, which might lead to problems. So that's why it's really important to produce higher quality oils for our brakes and all our systems. So then comes the transmission fluid. So transmission fluid handles lubrication, cooling, and hydraulic pressure for smooth gear shifts. Maintaining proper viscosity is critical to avoid friction, overheating, and gear wear. And you can actually feel this if you're in your car, which is, let's say, a Land Cruiser or whatever it is. If you didn't change your oil after a longer time, you will feel it in the change of gears and the fluidity and smoothness of the system overall. And when you change it and it becomes new, you can feel the system is much more smoother. It's easier on your system. So maintaining a good lubricant is really important, and fluid as well. So what's the heat impact on the transmission fluid this time? So when transmission fluid overheats, it thins out and breaks down faster. It's the same as before. So this reduces lubrication, increases friction, and can lead to gear slipping or even complete transmission failure. And now we can see here that this graph shows how quickly viscosity drops as temperature rises. Above around 100 degrees Celsius, the fluid loses its protective properties rapidly, which accelerates damage. So we have to make sure and to know how our systems are working. Now, what are the real-world consequences of the heat-related viscosity loss? Heat-related viscosity loss can cause brake fade, as we've said, longer stopping distances, and even brake systems failure. So in transmission, it leads to slipping, overheating, and expensive repairs. Over time, both systems have reduced lifespan if the fluids degrade. And here some maintenance tips to protect our systems. We need to replace the brake fluids every period of time, as stated by the manufacturer. We need to use the correct fluid type. So here in Qatar, like in the summer, it's much more different than it is in the winters. So we have to make sure that our viscosity are for the right temperatures. We need to keep the cooling system working properly. We need to avoid heavy loads or overheating conditions when driving. Those are a lot of things that we have to keep in mind to maintain and to protect our systems and its fluids. And as we know that newer brake fluids like the DOT 5.1 and synthetic transmission fluids resist heat better. Those are newly developed brake fluids. They can accommodate and they can take on a lot much more load and heat than the ones before, than the DOT3, the DOT4. And some vehicles also use external transmission coolers. Not only that, researchers nowadays are exploring nano additives to improve heat resistance even more. So there are even some additives that can be added to the fluid to improve their performances as well. So to summarize, heat reduces the viscosity, which affects both braking and transmission performance. Good maintenance and using the right fluids prevent failures. Understanding how these fluids behave under heat helps keep vehicles safe and reliable. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.